Hello everybody, this is Kale here with a Final Fantasy XIV housing video. Today I'm going to be decorating an apartment on my interior design character. Kelta is created for the sole purpose of turning an empty apartment you see here in some rather creative things without needing to deal with glitching or floating. So today what we're going to be working on is a 2-bedroom apartment. Now this apartment is going to have an eat-in kitchen, a full-size bath, or a oriental bath, which can seat 4 people. Not that 4 people should be in this apartment, but you never know. 2 full bedrooms and a phasmascape in the bedroom. So let's go over the parts list, if we will. I have 5 Hingan pillars, all of which you can purchase from Hakonin. 1 oriental partition, I believe we got these from Rowena. 2 paper partitions. These are craftable by carpenter or goldsmith. I'm pretty sure it's carpenter, but probably double check on that one. Paper partition, yep. Crafted by a woodworker or carpenter, but it does feature rose gold nuggets, which are goldsmith. Good thing I checked. Alright, so let's go back into the housing menu and go over our part list. The 2 paper partitions, 2 Hingan windowed partitions, which got from Hakonin. Unfortunately, a lot of the Hingan stuff isn't craftable, or fortunately, depending on what your preference is. We have a bunch of Hingan partitions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 partitions. Now, these can be replaced with a blank Hingan partition, or depending on where your apartment is, you can get the blank insert partition here that matches your walls. The only reason we do this is because the baseboard and the trim will match the rest of the house. Putting up the blank partitions will allow you to wallpaper, whereas the standard partitions, such as like Oasis, Riviera, they're all going to match the base wall layout. Everything you see is going to be unpainted and very basic, but it will be compatible if you decide to paint it. I chose the Azim step and the Aurora Phasmascape. Right now there are 3 Phasmascapes, these 2 and a Ruby C one. I just chose these 2 based on the characters that will be living in this 2-bedroom apartment. We have 2 Hingan benches, 2 Hingan sideboards, 2 Hingan wardrobes, a Hingan fire pit, Hingan Andon lamp, and 2 futon mattresses. So now that we went over the 30-piece part list, let's get started. I'm going to have to stay in this menu to do so. So, I'm going to start with the bathtub, because it's one of the largest things I'm putting in the room. As I said earlier, it's 4 people. Place it close to the wall as we can. That lines up pretty nicely, actually. Can I get it further back? Not really. We're gonna leave it there. Put up a Hingan partition. Is this apartment not a private bathhouse? Or a public bathhouse? Not a private apartment, people. Like it lined up pretty nicely. I do have toggle grid snap on because it helps me line up my partition. Because I don't like bare end caps, this is where your pillars come in. One pillar here. Grid snap on, we're going to rotate it. Cardinal directions. And this little notch you see stick out from the partition, this is how I line up pillars a lot. I put it as close to the edge as possible. Oriental partition place. Now, alignment with this is optional. You could either have it open to the left or right. I'll take small rotation. Do so. And pull it forward a bit. Now, that's why we didn't pull it forward. So, that there. Now, this is where it gets slightly tricky. We're going to start making the kitchen. The reason this gets tricky is I found out the first time I built this, if you bring this wall too close to the door, you'll actually get stuck during an exiting. So, I believe that was my safe point, but we can test it pretty easily. I like putting my little andon lamp here because the main chandelier is on the other side of this wall. Helps have a nice little light when you walk into the room. As someone who toured it earlier called it the welcome lantern. We're going to leave the private chambers, and head back into dark lit lantern. Back to the private chambers. I am able to move freely. Now we could push it one step further. And I still hit the safe zone. Alright. Again. Back in. Private chambers, not the company. Oh. Okay, so that's safe too. Any further, and I'd most likely get stuck at the wall and have to jump out. That done. Let's continue. Furnishing. Drop another pillar from our storeroom. Rotate it. That notch right to the edge. Partition, place. Now you'll notice if the nameplate is over rotate symbol, it's not going to want to move. It does feel. So let's pull it out a little bit. Step over. Over. Aligns pretty well. Cap it with a pillar. Now, if you don't mind the flat edge of the partition, feel free to build this without a pillar. I just get rather particular. Now, bust out our Hingen fire pit. This is what I call a heat-in kitchen because you have a table setting around the edge and a nice little kettle, fire pit, and it really works out as both a kitchen. Yep. Now, if you are in a free company house and your house has a bathhouse or a eatery already, you can feel free to reutilize this space for just about anything. But this room is built with the mindset of you're either in a apartment building or a place that doesn't have these amenities. So let's set it up for that circumstance. Now, with tables, as a friend of mine found recently, always make sure your tables size up. So exit your housing menu. Yes, you will probably be standing on them. I find one of the best distances between you and the table is about here. You can move it back a step further, but you're going a top down because that alignment usually doesn't work for me. So you'll notice the bench is now flush edges of the table and stand in between. Well, I could in housing. Can stand in between here, sit, sit down. I'll have a nice distance. You could try to bring it closer, but that's when the standing on the bench. So, kitchen and bath are done. And now time for the bedrooms. I know it doesn't look like we have a lot of room here to work with, and it's an apartment, so we really don't. But I'm still going to make it relatively fancy. We're going to start with not the Hingen window partition, but with the Phasmascape. These, as I said, you can pick whichever one you want. You can do it the same. For this example, we're doing two different ones. Phasmascapes can be rather particular when placing them, and you're never going to get them flush with the windows or pillars. You can put them back here a little bit. I actually won't let it go back any further. So you're going to see the little metal edge of pillars stick out. Now you can sink them into the walls. And now it's calling me a liar because I can push it back. So let's leave them there. Give us more room to work with. Now placing the Aurora Phasmascape with beautiful texture. Pretty sure the Aurora is Ishgar. This looks like Falcons, if I recall. Back nice and far. Now the cool thing is, yes, they're glitching together, but once we put up in windowed partitions, set them the wall like so. Just make sure they're at least one spacing out with grid snap. And from here, what you can do, ladies and gents, guys, ladies and gents, or anyone in between, you can now hide. You can move these Phasmascapes behind the left and right, and decide what part of the segment you want to see out your new window. Now, for spacing, we're going to be placing the furniture. Each room is going to have a wardrobe and a sideboard. Always, a rotate tool to lock them to grid. Furniture. That's about as far back as go. Now, there is going to be a rather narrow hallway here, warning you guys. And I'm realizing that this one pillar comes out further than the other. Now, a quick way for us to remedy this would be pulling this wall back, pillar back one step. Actually, here, back two, that gives a bit more room to work with. And you'll see with the Hingen partition, it creates this nice little glitch effect nobody wants. So we're just going to sink this partition a bit further into the wall. You won't have this issue if you use the blank partitions where you can put up your own wallpaper. And if that's not an issue to you, feel free to leave it. There's also wall scrolls, fans, other things you can attach to the wall. Hide that. If you wanted to, you could even put in a pillar. But all our pillars in this design are accounted for. So that's sideboard. Furniture set. Ah, I don't remember telling you to put a futon there. But the futon's out, so we're going to deal with it. I do try to keep flush with each other. We don't have a lot of space to work with. Let's place the second futon now. Lined up in this space. And this is when it becomes 2 bedrooms. Place, rotate. Now, one thing I do like about rooms in Shirogane is you can actually use the ceiling as a grid to see how your partitions lined up. Notice this one looks lined up rather evenly. So it's not glitching into the wall. Now you'll notice we have 2 more partitions. What I'm going to do, grab this one here. We're going to actually mesh this symbol. There. Now, there's that narrow hallway I was talking about. Push it back one step. And again, this is extremely customizable. You can make it a smaller room, you can make it a bigger room. It's all about size of the hallway that you have. Now, the pillars aren't actually going to go on this end cap, because that's where the second part, the final Hingen part goes. So, turn partition, line up with wall. Also, and ceiling, determine if your partition is where you want it. That's pretty even. Then we're going to move the pillar. Put the edge as close with the little nub or whatever you want to call it. Obstruction outside of the pillar. Grab your final Hingen pillar. Place. Rotate. here. Now for the partitions, because bedrooms, doors, we're going to use our paper partition to achieve this. Probably easier to do not in the hallway. Okay. Notice the little gold edge, a little gold embellishment, decoration, filigree, whatever we're calling them, is mesh or flush with the trim. Let's go over here and do the same thing, but we're going to invert it, otherwise you're entering the room to trip over the furniture. No one wants to trip over furniture. So we now have both of the doors with trim meshed with partition. One of the reasons we're using the paper partition is because this nice little design here matches the side trim of the window wall. In case you're curious, the window wall is viable. Full spectrum. If you have a specific color you want to match on your, oh, that's right, on your wallpaper, if you're using the blank partitions, match it there. I believe we have done it, people. We have 30 housing items, apartment, make a 2-bedroom apartment with heating, kitchen, and bath. Yes, this hallway is rather narrow, so let's fix that bit for furnishing. You'll notice we do have space next to the sideboard, so we can bring this back 2 increments and do the same on the other side. Don't want to bring it back too far though, because if it not really glitches, if it is too close to the sideboard will come through that section. Now I'm going to do the same with the pillar 2. Feel free to use the pillar to cover up the edge of the partition if you'd like to. Was that enough? It was. Not sticking out. We now have a slightly wider hallway. It is definitely noticeable. You still have room at the foot of the futon. This allows you to use a bunch of different beds. The futon is purchasable from the Shirogane. So the majority of the items that you find in this apartment are purchasable from Shirogane or the in-house NPC that sells housing items. Hey look, I sold something. So here is your bathroom, kitchen, bedrooms. That is our housing video. Thank you everyone who joined us for this video. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe and join us on our live streams that are going to be kicking back off soon on twitch.tv/ale_and_faye. Have a good time, Zan.